All right, here we go, 6 o'clock. Let's do this. All right, we'll call this meeting to order of the Planning Commission for December 2025. Please call the roll.
Chairman Wyckoff,
Present.
Commissioner Cloud,
Present.
Commissioner Dillon, Commissioner Noble,
Here.
Commissioner Connolly,
Here.
Commissioner Marr,
Here.
Commissioner LaRue.
Here.
All right, looks like we have a quorum. Thank you for everyone for showing up. Next section here is our public comment. Seeing no one here, I'll dispense with the rules about public comments. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. If someone would be so kind as to make a motion to approve the minutes, or if there's any amendments are necessary, please bring them out.
A motion to approve the minutes from November 2025.
Thank you. Got a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Yes.
Commissioner Marr,
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly,
Here, yes.
Noble,
Yes.
Commissioner Cloud,
Yes.
Chairman Wyckoff.
Yes, so we have approval of November meeting minutes. Thank you. First item of new business, ordinance 2025-20, certified recovery residences. Someone from the city like to give us their input?
So, by January 1st, 2026, the governing body of each county or municipality shall adopt an ordinance establishing procedures for the review and approval of certified recovery residences within its jurisdictions. The ordinance must include a process for requesting reasonable accommodations from any local land use regulation that serves to prohibit the establishment of a certified recovery residence. So basically, this is a ordinance we need to adopt because of a state law. Nancy, do you have any?
That pretty much sums it up. This is a mandate from the legislature.
Right?
There you go.
Is this their mandated language
Yep.
and everything?
Yep.
It's just not anything we crafted out of thin
It's,
air, right?
I mean, they don't give it to you in this form, but the statute lists what needs to be included,
Okay.
and that's been drafted for you.
Okay.
I had a question.
You can ask.
Yeah. Can you scroll to the section where they describe the different levels?
Yes.
It's at the beginning, I think.
Yeah, it's on bottom of page 9.
9 through page 10.
There we go, yeah. Is there anything in this, in the wordsmithing, that requires them to reapply if they want to change levels? 'Cause there's a big difference between level 1 and what is it, 4? Or, yeah, 4.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
there's a
a huge difference.
really big difference
The-
in what's happening in and around that place.
Yeah. The definitions come from a 397, 311 Florida statute, which defines how those different levels are, and there's licensing requirements within those. I can read through them before we're done. I haven't looked at them in a while to tell you exactly the process, but to have your license for one, you couldn't be doing another. So there would have to be a process. If you wanted to go from a level 1 to a level 3 within your licensing requirements, that would be noticed. You know,
So
so it
would they be required to reapply with Madeira Beach?
That's what I don't know. I can look and see if section 397 in the Florida statutes talks about that. I instinctively would think yes, but I don't know that answer off the top of my head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would like to see it in
Yeah.
ink.
Yeah, let me see if I can
would need to
and find
do
it in the
that.
statute while you guys look at the next provision, and I'll get back to you.
Okay, any other questions you want to ask? Come up with something, because she's got to dig for that. Want to give Nancy a moment to find that
A minute.
statute.
And I'm not sure that section 397 will address that specifically, but I'm going to start there and see what I can find.
Well, if it doesn't, would there be an issue with Madeira Beach adding that?
I think,
Go ahead, please, go ahead.
go ahead, Andrew, sorry.
So, I mean, the use is tied to a specific, like, application to submittal, so I mean, I would
Yeah.
think that they would have to reapply if they wanted to change it from the use they applied for. Because it has, like, the submittal, and it has certain requirements, like, you have to have, what you're specifically asking for and be requesting,
It definitely seemed clear that you needed to say what level you were applying for when you first were looking for that non-conforming permit. But it's not clear that once you got it, that you need to reapply and re-go through the process if you change the levels. I think clarity in this issue would be easy to write.
And so this was drafted by the attorneys based on the state requirement. So we took what, Tom Trask and his team had drafted. I think the question that we would have to ask ourselves is, other than the notice to the public from a permitting aspect, what would change from the actual permit? But I knew, like with alcohol license, if they expand their footprint and things like that, obviously it has to go back, or they change the type of alcohol use. So other than just notifying us that they changed levels, it probably wouldn't impact how the structure itself and its use was permitted in general. Like, it wouldn't drive the need for more parking or additional access. So from that part, I don't know that the permit process would change, other than simply us being notified. And so we could work with Nancy to see if we can at least make that very clear.
Yeah.
That way,
Okay.
yeah.
It's a good point, because I think the surrounding properties would want to know what's going to be there, and with some level of permanence to that type of use, right? I mean, there's a very different from level 4 to level 1, where some people might not be comfortable with just having the recovery center that's run by the people that are staying there. They might be more comfortable knowing someone else is there full time, or vice versa. They might want one that's a lower level and be okay with it, and that, at least that gives the public some idea of what's going to be there, and they can speak out on their own behalf based on what's proposed. But I think it's important that there's not any fluidity to the different levels.
That's my position, is
Yeah.
that it shouldn't just slip from 1 to 4, because the people who are inside level 1 house are not the same kind of people in the level 4. If you've been near it, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Level 4 people are mostly on methadone,
yeah.
at least.
And,
So it would be nice to know if there's going to be a change.
okay, we could definitely get that determined, and completely agree. And when you see something like this come through from the state level, you're like, okay, something's driving this. There's obviously an overarching reason why we're having to address this.
Yeah, some lobbyist somewhere is pushing an agenda somewhere on this, most likely. Just as a point of clarification from our attorney, if we are to approve this as it's written, could we make, obviously we're not the one approving it, we're just recommending to the commission. Could we approve based on
Yeah, that
the
clarification.
addition
Yeah.
or that clarification?
Yes,
Okay.
I think it's
Just so
fine.
you know, we don't have to pencil it tonight, but we can approve it subject to some manner of clarification to that point.
That's perfect.
Going to the
And
city
that gives us
commission.
time to look at it and work together and come up with language if we're able to do so.
Yeah, because we don't want to cobble something together tonight that's silly and doesn't make sense, because there's going to have to be some research done. But understanding, I think several of us, at least a couple of us, are in agreement on that. There probably needs to be some permanence to whatever that particular level licensing is.
And Nancy, what we want to get with you guys about too is it does reference that there's a form to be submitted to us.
Okay.
So I think within that form, once we create that, work with you guys, that's an opportunity too for us to definitely put it on the form that they acknowledge that acknowledgement of the level and if any changes are made. So we can discuss the form with you guys and build it out in that as well.
Sounds perfect.
So what's the timeline then with being required to approve an ordinance by January 1? If I'm understanding this correctly, we're going to draft this up again, is what we're saying, right?
You guys would approve it with the condition would appear
Okay.
at the next reading for the BOC. We don't have to have the form fully actualized at that point in time, but we can at least make the note in there, and then also make sure that whatever form we create based on this, it's included in as well.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Any more for any more? We sort of have to do it, right? So not sure why they bring us to a vote, but I think that's an important point. So if if anybody is prepared to make a motion, I would say to make sure we include that there's some clarifying language in there.
I motion to approve with the addition of verbiage that addresses the applicant changing from level 1 through 2 through 3 through 4. Yeah, that's it.
Would require a new application.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. We got a motion to approve 2025-20 with the addition of language to be determined that will prevent changes from one level to another without a new application. That sums it up, doesn't it? I think. Okay, got a motion. Need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. LaRue. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's call the roll, please.
Commissioner Cloud?
Yes.
Commissioner LaRue?
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly?
Yes.
Commissioner Marr?
Yes.
Commissioner Noble?
Yes.
Chairman Wyckoff?
Yes. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. We'll look forward to seeing that on the BOC agenda. The next item is approval of the 2026 Planning Commission calendar. So we're still looking at the first Monday of every month. Hopefully this meets with everyone's approval. Any comments on it? Notable issues?
I'll make a motion to accept the planning commission meeting schedule for 2026.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Yes.
Commissioner Cloud?
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly?
Yes.
Commissioner Marr?
Yes.
Commissioner LaRue?
Yes.
Chairman Wyckoff?
Yes. Looks like we have ourselves a schedule. Thank you. The next item, old business. Seeing none, we'll move to any administrative or staff presentations. Do we have anything on that from anyone or esteemed staff? Nope. Okay. Planning Commission discussion, the non-conforming time restrictions. This should be fun.
Yes. So first I'm going to pass around a couple of the ordinances. We just reworded it with the building official, but it's similar to what you have there, and I highlighted the changes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Oh, no, here, Joe can use this one.
Oh, thank you.
So really this is our non-conforming section. It addresses any use, lot, structure that doesn't conform to the current code regulations, whether it's zoning, floodplain, or really anything in our land development regulations. So this entire code really is messy. There's a lot of changes that need to be addressed. We're planning on doing a more deeper dive in the coming months to really reword this entire section. But specifically, there's two that are time sensitive with the recent hurricanes. And those relate to non-conforming uses and non-conforming structures. So 3 types of non-conformities. There's a non-conforming lot. If a lot doesn't meet the lot size requirements of the zoning district. Non-conforming use, for example, a commercial building in a residential zoned area. And non-conforming structures, which could really be anything. So like all of the pre-firm houses that are not elevated are all non-conforming structures. Any structure that doesn't meet setbacks is a non-conforming structure. And currently the non-conforming code gives 2 time limitations. One of them on page 206 of the handout is section 11093-2 that gives for non-conforming uses a 1-year time frame. So if the use terminates in a year, then currently the way the code reads is you lose that use, but then section 110-95 kind of contradicts that, which is one of the many issues with this code section. And it doesn't give a time frame, so it's kind of up to interpretation. Does that mean that it's limited to the 1 year? So that's one thing we want to address. And then the non-conforming structures in 110-93-3C on page 3 of 6 specifically says that any non-conforming structure, so again, that's most of the properties in Madeira Beach, any pre-firm house that got flood damage, any non-conforming structure has to be repaired. The way the code currently reads, the repairs have to be completed within 18 months. So for Hurricane Helene and Milton, that means that the way the code is currently written, every house that got flood water, so every pre-firm house, their repairs have to be completed by March 26th, would be 18 months from Helene, which is only a few months away. So we're trying to get some feedback on what we think is a reasonable amount of time. The way we drafted it right now with these underlines would be that they have 18 months to get the permit and then 36 months to complete the repairs, which is in line with our fee schedule, how we did permit fee waivers for 18 months, and then 36 months is in line with the state preemption on RVs, how you can keep an RV on the property as long as you're making a good faith effort to rebuild. But really, we're trying to get feedback on what does the Planning Commission think is a reasonable time frame for people to be able to rebuild. Because I ran the numbers, basically about 50% of the pre-firm structures in Madeira Beach haven't pulled any permits to either repair, build new, demo, or elevate. Wow. So about half, a little more than half, haven't either did work without a permit, and then this code would push them to be discovered that they didn't pull a permit, they did repairs, or the property is just sitting vacant, maybe they're selling it. There's a lot of abandoned properties, which is another complaint from the community. So it's trying to find that balance on what's reasonable for someone to make the repairs. But yeah, that's where we're at.
So we're like 14 and a half months into this, and we still have people that haven't done anything. No permit, no.
Yeah, more than half haven't done anything, and a lot of people are selling. So we sent out substantial damage letters to most of the properties. About half of them said you were substantially damaged, meaning they have to repair, elevate, or build new. The other half, we said you weren't. A lot of the ones that were substantially damaged that maybe do want to do the right thing and build new, they're still trying to get the funds or insurance money to build new. So we're not going to have any documentation on those. A lot of them did unpermitted repairs, which we're not going to get any documentation until we do a code case. But yeah, more than half haven't done anything.
Have we sent out notices to, well, I didn't get one, so I'm thinking the answer is no. Have we sent out notices to people that haven't even applied yet?
So that would be the next step. So we sent the substantial damage letters for most properties, got those. Anyone that asks us questions, obviously we can pull up their property and let them know. But as far as being proactive about like the 18 months, no, we haven't done anything yet. So that's why we want to figure out what is a reasonable amount of time. And then from there, be proactive and mail letters, push it on the city website. Like for example, with the permit fee extension, we put that on our website. We got over 100 responses, so that was pretty effective. And this, we would also mail letters. But then it's also, yeah, so to answer your question, not directly related to the time frame, no, we haven't sent notices yet.
I feel like 18 to apply and get a permit and another 18 to build is pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be cases where it doesn't work, but there should be able to be worked one-on-one. But that really, I mean, if I weren't sitting up here, I wouldn't know that you had rules on how long I had to get a permit and how long I had to take built. How would I know that? And a lot of these people are living up somewhere else, and this was their second home. They didn't live here, every day. So it feels like everybody needs to get a letter that says, here's the new dates. We're serious. You give them the scare. You got this date to apply and get a permit. You got that date to finish and close your permit.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need a public
To be fair,
awareness
I mean, I
campaign.
don't, the people up in New Jersey and Connecticut and Ohio own houses down here that, in fact, my neighbor across my street is from Ohio, actually. And they're aware that they're going to do something. They probably have applied, but they wouldn't know that there's any dates associated with applications or finishing, but they have no idea.
Yeah, most people aren't aware of the
Right.
date restrictions.
It just took so long to get the substantial damage letters out that I don't think we should punish the people who didn't know. Like, I thought I was going to build back, and then I get the letter and I'm like, oh, scramble mode. And I still don't have the plans from the architect even back yet. And
So, yeah.
financing and insurance and, increased cost of compliance. And so I don't know if we could work something in from the date that they received the substantial damage letter and start then. That might be a little more,
So with the substantial
realistic.
damage letter, two things I want to add to your point. Number one, if they're building new or elevating, this wouldn't apply because we have a different section in our nonconforming that allows you to keep some of the nonconformities like the setbacks. So that's fine. You don't have to build a whole new house within 18 months. This would really only apply to the people that just want to repair their house. You have to get the repair. So we could be more flexible with. And then for the people that maybe don't have any documentation, we could probably find a way to document that they sent us a letter. Okay, they're not going to repair it under the 50% rule, so this 18-month rule won't apply. And then we would, in a perfect world, maybe create some kind of code case that sits dormant so that if they sell the property, the buyer can be aware, okay, this house can't be repaired, but it can be rebuilt. But they don't get any fines or anything like that. That's an option. Also, our substantial damage letters, I didn't mention this, they did have a kind of a false time frame. It said you have to get your permit within 60 days. We didn't really have a way to enforce that. Now, obviously, we have this code section. But that 60-day, some people ignored it, obviously.
So, so it's important to note on this, this section C where the 18-month thing is, it's only for those that want to repair a not substantially damaged structure, right? It's not for somebody like you who's going to end up having to rebuild and everything. You have some time. But I think we have like two camps we need to address in some version of public awareness campaign. Those who have done just absolutely nothing and we have no clue what's going on, or those that are in the process like Mike, who had to switch gears because of the substantial damage notification. And then kind of all bets are off, right? You've got kind of free reign to do what you need to do. But I mean, I see some of these properties that I'm out here all day, every day riding around, and there are some that are obvious and they haven't done a thing. I mean, just nothing. Like some of them, I don't think they've even taken their drywall out. It's that bad. So I don't know, do we have an action plan? This is staff work, I'm sure, but I'm just curious, an action plan to deal with the people who've done absolutely zero. I mean, that needs to be kind of a focal point, I think.
Yeah, that's part of what we would be working through. And with this code, it would help us because ideally, like when FEMA audits a property and we have no documentation, it's not a good look. If we have something like this in our code, then we can at least create a code case. Sometimes it's hard to create a code case out of nothing. We can't prove that they did repairs if it's sitting dormant unless we have something like this in our code that says you have to make the repairs. So that's one avenue to go about it. Also, Marcy just brought up a good point regarding notification. When we sent out the permit fee waiver extension forms to allow people to extend no permit fees, we did put this code section on that form and the 18-month date and said March 26th deadline. So that was the first time we really publicly pushed this ordinance, but those weren't directly mailed. So everyone will do when we push this ordinance a little bit further.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. The 18-month and another 18 months is reasonable. I mean, you know, a lot of the slowdown was just trying to get permits for a while. That was not ideal. But now that that seems to have worked itself out a little bit better, I think the 18 and 18 is good for people that are rebuilding. And then for those who are, I shouldn't say rebuilding, that are repairing, but those who are going a different route, their timelines is completely different, right?
Yep. And then one thing, so is there any more feedback on the non-conforming structures in the 18 months? And then I'm going to go back to
That-
the uses.
Is that a demo permit or a new permit or what? 'Cause
It
it
would-
doesn't really say.
Yeah, so it'd be, for the 18 months, it would really be a repair permit because, or a full demo would work too, because obviously there's no structure there anymore. But if you're building new or elevating, like I mentioned earlier, you would be able to still do that. We would just ideally want some documentation so we can tell after the 18 months, okay, they don't have a permit yet and it's because they're working through their finances to build a new home or something like that. I don't know if that answers your question.
So if somebody is going through the contesting of the substantial damage, how long does that take to work through from what you've seen?
Quick, yep. Now we're processing repair permits pretty fast. The backlog now when it comes to plan review is just because there's a lot of permits that take a long time, like new builds that could take, you know, half a business day just on one permit. But to actually plan review a repair permit, reverse it to not substantially damaged, it's like 20 minutes.
So if, again, somebody was substantially damaged and they got to get their appraisal and go through that, how long does that take to work through?
From start to finish on the applicant's end. I would say on average, if they say you can get an appraisal done roughly 2 weeks, get the cost work done, say another week, realistically you can do that during the 2 weeks while you're getting the appraisal done. I would say 3 weeks is very reasonable to, from start to finish, to overturn a substantial damage determination and repair under the 50% rule.
So the city can look at that in less than a month then if they get the information?
That would be through the county, right?
No, just
the-
for the repairs, it would just be through us.
Okay.
The backlog with the permits is just getting to them. Once we, and obviously if we're going to enforce this 18-month ordinance, say like a couple of days before, even the month before, we'll prioritize the repair permits over all the other permit types to make sure that the ball is not in our court.
I guess the last question is, since December 1st, this is going to kick in March, are we going to give any grace since is probably going to get some complaints, right? And maybe going forward, use this and give some kind of help now? I don't know, it's only 4 months away, so.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's kind of what we talked about, is maybe using some verbiage for people who experienced the storm in the 2024 season and back, but moving forward with the more push to let people know. And I think pre-storm, we probably couldn't have predicted how long recovery would have taken. So I think it would have been an interesting conversation then. But now that we've gone through it, we have a better idea of the time frame it takes. But I definitely think we could work something in that says if it's for the 2024 storm or predates this, then here's your leeway. Anything after that, the 18 months is firm. So.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, that seems to be reasonable.
So maybe like 6 more months for this hurricane season, since we're late to deliver the notice, something like that.
Yeah, I'd say yes. Probably.
I need some help.
Yeah.
Section 2D.
Yeah, so that's the next topic. That's with the uses. Well, that's another big conversation. Well, we can get into that after we finish with the.
It seems like at first,
Yeah.
at least at first glance, it should be in line with the 1836, not the 365 days. And I mean, for example, the Elks is a non-conforming use.
Right.
It's a building sitting in the middle of a resident that they couldn't get that permit if they started from scratch, right? And they sure as hell didn't make 365 days. Parts of that building are still in op, including the kitchen. So that's already, I mean, we're not tearing down the Elks because I got to win the Queen on Wednesday, so we ain't doing that. We need to get D in line with whatever we're thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
if you'd be interested in trying to protect grandfathered uses that were damaged from
Well,
that.
yeah, sure. I mean, you got the Masons and the Elks that are plopped right in the middle of a resident place, which is cool. It's good the way they are.
Yep.
But, you know, they got, I mean, the Elks, obviously, one-story building got completely obliterated. And they well past the 365 for full permit close and are still working on it, you know, for sure.
Right. So, yeah,
Permit is closed, just so you know, because I did the work, but
I don't think the kitchen is.
it is.
It is it? Oh, that's good news. I know on January 1, we got Dead Bobs coming in.
Yeah.
For those that you are not Elks members, we got Dead Bobs now.
Cool.
Think about that.
Sign me up.
That's good, yeah.
In your 18 months period, and the house sitting there, and no one's maintaining it, I really am wondering how you can write something in there that makes them maintain the property for the benefit of the community, their neighbors, and the city of Madeira Beach. You shake
Right.
your head. I have a house next door to me, and the grass is almost as high as this counter, and nothing's been done.
so I think that's the intent of
And-
this code.
You know, you can send Corey out there all you want, don't mean shit, pardon my French. But
That's not
I'm
French.
talking about my next door to me, but there's other places. And if you go back a year and a half and you look at the community, everybody maintained it. And all of a sudden, everybody runs away. How I feel that something's got to be done, even if it's just cutting the grass and maintaining a look. And, you know, to find somebody $50 or $100 is really not doing anything for me, because all I got is rats and snakes. How are you going to solve that problem for me?
So it looks like the city has something in its code related to clearing of excessive growth and litter from open private property by city. Just
Andrew, it's got to read more than that. It's got to say a lot more than that.
And we've discussed this. This has come up a lot internally and at commission meetings about how little leverage we have to enforce timely, real-time solutions on people's private property. So the mayor's even brought up like getting a volunteer group to go mow and stuff like that. And we legally, that's a tricky path forward to go on private property and maintain that. So on the properties we can, we're doing legally what we can, but with it being private property and the growth, I agree, the fines are minimal and people are taking them, trying to sell them. So the code enforcement aspect of this is very difficult, and we would take care of it in the code enforcement section. But as of right now, per our code, we are doing everything. How to tighten that down. We have a meeting with Trask coming up, and that's one of the things that we need to talk about as far as the non-conforming, what happens when you allow them to continue, and how little control we have over, like I said, immediate fix for those type things.
Well, that's where you have to write something in this somehow.
I don't, I'll have to, but legally, like I'm trying to, I know that
mean,
we just have
And she's
limitations.
right, and you'll
Just-
have, I know there's a bigger conversation, so I don't want to, steal anyone's thunder or whatever. You're not the only community dealing with this. Everyone is, right? People left, think they paying a guy to mow the lawn. No one's mowing the lawn. They're not there. They don't know that. But there is a process because it is private property. You can't just walk on. You can't just write something that says we get to walk on whenever we want. You have to go through it. They have to have their due process. So I'm sure if there's ways that your current code can be tightened up to make it quicker or better, Tom will find that and help you do that. But there are limitations on how quickly you can do it and what you can do because it is not your property, the city's property.
Do we have any words?
It's very frustrating for a lot of people.
Do we have any words on abandoned pools? Of which I have near me.
that Corey, that the Pinellas County sheriffs have been responding to as well. Again, with it being on private property, if they allow you to go on their property, you can go, Pinellas County has those mosquito fish that they'll go put in there, but they have to have written permission from the property owners. And it's the same situation we come into with that is the same situation we have with the grass. What we have been doing for people who want to demolish their property but keep their pool, we're requiring pool protection and a temp pole to keep the pool pump running and maintained. But those are typically people who are demolishing their home and getting ready to rebuild. So they're more interested in maintaining it. The ones that you're talking about are the same ones who have their grass growing and they're not
They're
maintaining it.
biohazards, a year later, yeah.
Yep. So the sheriffs are following up on them. They're issuing tickets. We did have one property who allowed Pinellas County to go on and put the mosquito fish in there. But again, it's private property and we have to have that permission to get on there. Other than that, we follow the due process, which is not quick.
But, so we do have some codes or ordinances that address abandoned pools? Not just for safety, but for the biohazard that they can become?
I'm guessing, I'm trying to look quickly as I talk, I'm guessing you probably have something within your code about a nuisance, which that would probably qualify if it's in a certain state to become a nuisance. You have
Okay.
mosquitoes, you have smell, you have
Right,
some other
right.
things. So there's probably something like that in there that it would be couched under. It's just still a process, unfortunately.
Right.
Alrighty. Anything else you need from us?
So overall, it sounds like the consensus would be that 18 months is reasonable since we're late to push out notices. Maybe we do 24 months from Helene for repairing. When it comes to non-conforming uses, we want to align that with the other sections of our code. So also when it comes to non-conforming uses, you have to keep in mind that could potentially include, say, a triplex on a lot that's only big enough for a duplex, which other code sections in here, like 11095, allow you to keep the triplex with the new builds. So we would probably word it in a way that maybe the uses don't have any time limit, possibly because 11095 doesn't specify a time limit for rebuilding a non-conforming use. So just things to think about if you're following with the uses.
Well, I think we should, as Andrew brought up, protect the grandfather, the continuous non-conforming use. I think we should protect that to whatever extent is reasonable. I don't think it should go on in perpetuity to just let somebody have an abandoned property and just because it's already a non-conforming use, let it go on forever. There does need to be some deadlines enforced, but I don't think a year is enough given the circumstance. I mean, we're already past a year.
Right.
I mean, so we're already kind of screwed, technically. So, and part of the process, it just took so long to get everything done. None of us saw that coming.
Right.
So I think there needs to be some give there, but I think some of the focus should be on the non-conforming uses being allowed to continue. And I don't know what that deadline should look like, but maybe it's more in line with what we've been talking about, the 18 and 18. And then if it's Helene or before, there's a little bit of forgiveness. It's 24 and 18 or whatever the number we came up with. Because the process is, this is so new to everybody and we've never done it, right?
Right.
And we'll know better going forward and other systems will be more efficient for pumping out permits and, substantial damage letters and things like that. But I think if you look at our city, the plat map was thrown on top of an already developed area in a lot of cases. So by platting thing or by coming in with codes, we created non-conforming uses that previously weren't because it was the Wild West out here, right? We got 35 by 40 foot lots in some areas. Stuff's not, you can't fly. But so those things need to be protected because otherwise we tread very closely to being a taking of property rights, which we don't want to get involved in, right? So I think there need to be some protective measures in there to allow residents to figure this out and the city, quite frankly, to figure it out as well.
Yeah.
So I'm in line, my opinion is more in line with what we were talking about for this other one to give it the 24 months if it's leaner before, and then you could establish 18 months later. And if it needs to be revisited because of another, God forbid, thing happens, you know, then we could talk about it then too.
Okay.
So right now in our code related to the use, there are some limitations with rebuilding that use. For example, there's a limit, you're limited to how many dwelling units existed and the amount of square footage that existed prior to the day of immediately preceding such damage. So basically, if you have a non-conforming use, you could rebuild it to the same square footage, but that would potentially mean you're rebuilding something that could have, like, let's say it was a 9-unit apartment on an R2 zone lot, they would be rebuilding 500 square foot units, which, so I guess keep that in mind with the reference, it'd be referencing this reestablishment of uses, which has some limitations. And I guess we'll need to have to add commercial structure as a reference here too, because right now we only reference residential and hotel motel.
So there's, at the end of the day, when you read through the whole non-conforming section, there's just a lot of issues and a lot of, it's not reasonable. Some of the, you meet this, but then you have to follow this. You get it back, but you only get 300 square feet. So that's why the bigger push for us tonight was to focus on the use timeframes so we can get those cleared.
Okay.
But we do want to make, to your point, much better use of the nonconformity and the long term, and especially when it comes to the uses, how they're rebuilt and what limitations apply. So once you start reading through it, it just hurts your brain once you get, so
More.
yeah. So, and what this does too, to be quite honest with you, codes like this eat up staff time, because we've talked to hundreds of people about their properties. And each time we have to go back to this, look at the interpretation, review all these other components of it, then make sure we're in the right direction. If we can create a clear code, it will be much easier for the public to understand, much easier for us to enforce, and quicker. So this is a section we have to touch, but it's also with this, we're going to have to probably touch definitions, a few other code sections and things like that. But that's a priority, and it's something that I want to put on our calendar to have done well before, not I want to say well before, but before next hurricane season. We've got to get this section to protect the residents.
All right, so given what we've got here, hopefully that gave some direction. Matt, you got something?
Yeah, I just had one thing. I've been thinking about this in my head this whole time. It might not be super pertinent, but Mike brought up, now that was for substantially damaged property where you're kind of in the middle of like waiting on insurance and waiting on permit and waiting on, or the architect and so on and so forth. For maybe just for this round, like we're talking where we want to give a little bit more grace to this storm season. Is there a way, you know, is there a mechanism that folks might be able to just say, hey, like, I'm in the process of doing this, you know, by a certain time? Like, what if they're not quite there to get that permit, you know, right at the deadline, but at least they can, you know, provide some sort of proof of action to the city that, like, you know, I'm working on this, but here's the reasons why I'm not quite ready for that permit yet.
If they open a permit without having everything ready to go?
So let me first ask a question. So proof of action for a repair permit or a new build?
I guess anything under this non-conforming.
So the non-conforming use is tricky because, like, if you're building a new triplex, then you would need a whole new build permit. I think you try and reword it in a way that the 18 months only applies to the pre-repair permits, in which case we kind of word it that it has to be permitted like the permit has to be approved within the 18 or the 24 months. If we could certainly do like a notice of intent type of thing to track like new builds and stuff like that. I think we could absolutely do that.
Yeah.
But for the repair permits, I think the best route would be to hold them to having the permit approved and notice of commencement filed, because it's very easy for someone to just
Right.
submit like you know,
Yeah.
you know what I'm getting at.
We're practicing
you're
our French
going-
today.
Out of French.
No, so yeah, so I guess, yeah, to your point, more so the intent behind that would be for rebuild and not repair, right? Because
Gotcha.
theoretically, yeah, repair, you can just pull a permit that you're changing a light fixture or something, you know, and then kind of carry that on, versus taking the full action. But for rebuild, I think people maybe need some sort of a mechanism that allows them to say, hey, like, I'm in this process.
Yeah, we would definitely do that. And we were talking with a new person we have on the planning team that was a previous community development director of Treasure Island, and they kind of did something similar. They had a 1-year time frame, and they started tracking the people that had the intent to rebuild. So we would probably do something similar to that.
And then, you know, on the next communication, if that can be sorted out before the next communication so people understand and it's very clear, like, hey, you know, you have this for your getting your permit, but if you're planning to rebuild, you can submit this form so we know, you know. And I think there should be some time limits to that too, right? Like, to that same point about the repair, you can't just be granted like immunity because you said you have an intent. Like, there should be a reasonable time frame on, well, I'm making this intent, but I might miss your deadline by a month or two, you know? I don't think it can be like a year, obviously.
Yeah, so maybe like the 24-month time frame for like Hurricane Helene to either get a repair permit approved and issued, or to submit some kind of letter of intent that you're going to rebuild or elevate
Yeah, but you're still bound by the back end of
a later
the
time
the
frame,
permit must be closed by X, right? So,
right?
you know.
For the repair permits, you would be bound by that.
Alright.
But yeah, for the new, as long as we get the letter of intent by the 24 months. But
And if the
yeah.
new structure is
really
conforming, then there is
enforceable?
no deadline.
So, yeah, but then correct, yeah.
Right, if
Yeah.
you're just building, if
Yeah.
you demo the house and then you're taking your time. But if you want to have that non-conforming because of the 35 by 40 foot lots we have, you have to get the ball rolling or show the intent to get the ball rolling. Hurry up and get ready and to wait.
Just something to kind of keep in mind as we, in hindsight, look back over this. Only within the last 3 years did we go like digital with a permit software. So we did that. And then most recently, post-storm, we've engaged Forerunner, which is more of a floodplain software. Now that we have those in place, our ability to track, document, mass issue stuff, cross-reference permitting is greatly enhanced with those software programs. So we now have better capability than we did 4 months ago. So we are working through that and trying to leverage that as we learn the new Forerunner software. So those are things that we've added on that will help in these situations.
All right. We good?
I think I'm good. I wanted to circle back real quick on the letter of intent thing. If I've got a house, I keep the yard mowed, scrappy 1955 house, it's swamped, it's substantially damaged, or it's not substantially damaged, and I let it sit there 5 years, and then I scrape it and build a new house. And I never gave you a letter of intent. I'm still going to scrape it. I'm still building a new house. So the lack of a letter of intent has no remedy. There's no remedy if I don't. And I know this because there's a guy across the street from me 3 doors down. It's got a house that hasn't anybody lived in it for 20 years, but he keeps the grass mowed. and it looks okay. It's non-livable. It got red tagged when we called Anne Marie because it was a disaster inside. They cleaned it all out, shut the doors again, keep the yard mowed. 5 years from now, if he wants to scrape it and build a new house and never gave you a letter of intent, so what? There's just no remedy to the not giving you a letter
But
of intent.
if we
to
did
scrape
a
it.
proactive code enforcement, then we can create a code case for everyone that either doesn't give us a letter or pull a repair permit, which we haven't done, the city hasn't done that before in the past. So we could hypothetically pull all of the pre-firm structures in the city and remove all the ones that pulled repair permits, remove all the ones that gave us a letter of intent, and everyone that's left gets a code case.
Right, but what are you going to do with that information? What are you going to do with the ones who haven't sent a letter of intent? And they've gone past the 36-month, they're a non-conforming, slab grade, single-story home.
Then potentially they could go to the special magistrate and have a daily fine for not repairing within the 18 months.
There's a house across the street for 20 years is in that exact condition.
It hasn't been enforced
So
before.
what? I mean, it looks fine. So what? It looks fine. Welcome to America. Free property that keeps the grass mowed. The house is reasonably painted. You can't live in it. It's probably substantially damaged, and it's been there for literally 20 years. If you wanted to scrape it tomorrow and build it, okay. But I don't see how you could find somebody for that. How are you going to find it's my property. I pay the taxes. The yard's mowed. It looks okay. I don't see, from a legal point of view, I'm like, yeah, so I'm not going to give you a letter of intent.
But if I'm understanding it, they just wouldn't be eligible for the non-conforming part of
Oh,
it.
yeah,
They would
I'm
have
not
to
talking
then
about
go
that.
into
I'm
conforming.
talking about this need for the letter of intent to rebuild a new structure. I say you can't do anything if the guy doesn't do it. You can't do anything anyway. So I think you're fussing about nothing.
Why would the non-conforming section be relevant? Because he could probably do a single-family home there by right.
Right. So let's say he goes past that window. We've talked about
He's just saying
1836.
It just gets, yeah,
So
it'll sit there and do
the
its due
remodeling
process.
of his old 50s house is gone. You just let it go too long. Okay. And so he never gave a letter of intent that he's going to scrape it and build a new home. So what? You got to fight him for not giving a letter of intent? You can't do that. I don't see how that would work.
So at the end of the day, what we would what this would help do is if they are a pre-firm home, non-conforming use, they don't pull a permit and it just sits there and we put them into code enforcement, the hope would, and they started collecting daily fines, the hope would then be that they would want to come into compliance sooner, or after the 20 years is up and they've accumulated those fines and they come before the board, those fines we impose the fines and we impose the liens that we've put on there and they'll have to pay the fines. but
Why are
wouldn't
we
be able-
fining them if the property looks okay? Nobody's living in it. What are we fining them for? I mean, we're struggling with people with grass up to their
Right.
knees and pools that are biohazards, and we seem to struggle on what to do about that. I think maybe we should do something about that. And we're worried about a house that looks fine, there's no pool, the grass is mowed, the house is painted, non-livable.
Right.
It's substantially damaged. Okay, well, he's paying his taxes.
Right.
What's the fine for? How is that egregious to anybody?
If our code requires that you pull a permit to repair your home within a certain time frame, so if we go with 24 months now, you're
Right.
non-conforming because you're at grade. So that's what would trigger it. To your point, if, at that point in time, you put them in the code and then you waive the fines at the end of it. But at the end of the day, we're still enforcing the code that we have in place to help with those types of things and to get people moving along. That would be the goal with having that, and similar to what we do now for other code violations. So.
Yeah, there's part of that I'm not buying. I understand the want at the city level that for every single property, I'd like to know kind of what's the plan here. Everyone, you're going to remodel, get reappraisals, you're going to scrape it and rebuild, you're going to scrape it and leave the lot. What are you going to do? I'd like to know. But in the case where there's no issue with the property because there's nobody living in it.
Right.
Mowed, painted, looks okay, nobody complaining, no pool. And 3 years from now or 5 years from now, let's say the window for remodeling your non-conforming, non-FEMA flood house has passed, and that person wants to scrape it and build, or he sells and scrape it and build, which is likely what will happen down the street from me. Okay, why was anybody fined for that? Fined for what? I don't get
So
it.
they would have been fined for, so in that case, the intent of the code on having to repair it within whatever deadline is because most of them are not keeping their house painted and their lawns mowed. Most of them
Well,
either,
that should be a different ordinance that says you're an eyesore, you're a nuisance, you got a biohazard in your backyard. That should be a different code.
but that's one thing. And then there's also the people that did the unpermitted repairs. So when FEMA comes and audits and they want, give me all the data on this pre-firm structure, how's it still standing? And they did unpermitted repairs, we can't prove that they did unpermitted repairs. We have no documentation. This gives us
Okay, I
another-
get that. So there's part of the need that I didn't understand, that when you report to FEMA, you need to say something about that property.
Right, yeah, that's a big component as
Right.
well.
And at the end of the day, the goal would be to have the code enforcement in the system such that if they sell the property and somebody buys it, we can immediately tell that person, just so you know, you don't get to remodel at grade. And that's the
Lost your
big-
window.
Exactly. You've
Yeah, I
lost your
totally get that.
window, and we have it in the system. If you're going to rebuild, whatever, that's fine. The code enforcement gets turned off. You go with your new build. But it's really the way we can track and implement stuff. Doesn't mean it has to be enforced, but it's a metric for us to track the property and to report on it to FEMA. It's a good point. And the biggest issue is when they sell the property, right? If it's the current owner,
Exactly.
you get it. But when they sell, people come in here all the time with these lofty dreams about what they're going to do with these homes. And then we're the people who get to watch their dreams fall apart as we tell them about the FEMA 50% rule.
Right.
So, and it happens a lot. Realtors aren't real good about talking about it. As much as we publish it, it didn't mean much to anybody until we went through this storm. Then everybody's like, oh, that's what you were talking about. So unfortunately, when we have new people come in, that's where we really want to catch them early on. And the good thing is if we had a code enforcement case on the property you're talking about, and it's gone, it's lapsed, it's missed its window, and somebody calls and says, hey, I'm looking to buy this property, can you tell me anything about it? We can go in and go, yeah, it has active code enforcement and it can't be repaired. So that's kind of where that helps. It doesn't mean we have to enforce any fines
Well,
or anything like
I
that.
get
Yeah.
wanting to know for a variety of reasons that all totally make sense. I suspect the idea that you could fine people because they didn't tell you, I'm going to scrape it in a
Right.
couple of years
Agreed.
and sell it, or I'm going to scrape it and build. It's hard to find somebody because they just didn't make you happy and tell you. I get that you wanted that, but the fine associated with that is a little dodgy from a legal point of view.
Yeah,
Being
so,
an engineer and not a lawyer, so, but
It has to be
Yeah.
part of violation of your code, and you can't just put in your code what you want. It has to be something that legally you can,
yes,
You
that's my
you know,
concern.
if they're
Before we
if they're
get too
building
excited
a
about
permit,
fining
absolutely,
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there-
Yeah,
there are
we're-
limitations.
we're definitely planning on talking to Tom Trask about it more, but
I get wanting to know. I totally buy that.
the thought is the code they would be violating is the code that says all the repairs have to be made within 18 months. And it's 18 months, we have documentation that they got damaged, but no documentation of any repairs, and that would be the cause for fine.
I just think for the letter of intent, which I totally get why you want to do that. I think the carrot is better than the stick in that case. I don't think you're going to stick anybody into giving you a little letter that says, this is what I plan on doing. I don't see that working. You know how stubborn Americans are.
Yeah,
You can't even get them to put anything in the pool or mow the grass. So,
so the violation would be not that they didn't give us a letter of intent, the violation would be that they didn't repair the structure within 18 months or whatever date. The letter of intent would just be, okay, these are the people that didn't repair the structure within 18 months, so they're still in violation as well, but at least we have documentation, so we're not going to push them through with the code enforcement case. That's kind of the thought.
I'll stop talking now.
No, that was a very good point.
You're good. All right. Giving you some stuff to work on? Sounds kind of fun. All right. Let's see, the next item up here on discussion B, proposed C3 zoning district and C4 zoning district amendments. Discussion on said topics.
So one component of the master plan, or part of Kimley Horn's contract was to review the C3 and C4 zoning districts. They went through them and proposed changes based on what they recommended in the now adopted master plan. So attached to your agenda packet are the the proposed changes that, based on the recommendations in the master plan. Some of these changes do require comp plan amendments. So that's one of the things that would be important to talk about. Are there any changes that you would want to be brought forward sooner in an ordinance that would just be, that wouldn't require doing a comp plan amendment, or would you rather have everything done in a larger ordinance, but it would require doing the comp plan amendment? Specifically, there's certain countywide rules thing with mixed use that they recommended us to add in our comp plan and in our LDRs that would help, especially with the C3 zoning district, help like property owners be able to better utilize some of these smaller lots. One thing that we do have going that you guys already saw and voted on, that's going to second reading, is that private amendment related to the setbacks that was very similar to what was proposed in here. So that is moving forward and going to second reading, but the rest of this is just stuff that was proposed, but we haven't put it in an ordinance form yet. But we wanted to just bring it forward as a discussion, and at the top it kind of explains the comprehend. So one of the things was that was adding a something related to a vertical mixed use development, where right now in our code, when you have a mixed use project, you have to do this proportional density intensity calculation that's kind of annoying to deal with, because basically it kind of punishes you for doing something mixed use where you lose so in C3 the FAR is 0.55. So for almost every 1 square foot of commercial FAR, you lose you lose 1.81 square feet of lot area. So potentially, if you have like 1,000 square feet of commercial, you could lose some the mixed use, like the residential density, like whatever above it. So this adopting then our comp plan or LDRs would allow you to fully allocate the density and intensity, so it wouldn't be an increase in it. It would be calculating in a different way that would make it mixed use more attractive than currently. I have it attached, so it's a discussion item. There's some other definitions that we would probably have to do in a separate for our definition section of our code. But I'll let you guys discuss it now.
So when you're talking about stacking density, you're talking about if it's zoned for 1 or 2 residential, you can have 2 residential and 2 commercial on the same site? Or 1 and 1? This is where I'm confused on the density stacking.
Maybe I should have brought it like an example lot area to kind of, or even just a hypothetical lot to explain what would happen if you had like a 10,000 square foot lot, like currently what you would be able to do versus what you'd be able to do if we did that code change. As you know, in C3 right now, if it's residential office retail, you're limited to 18 residential units per acre, and if it's commercial general, it's 15. So I mean, like 18 residential units per acre. Let me just see. Just going back to the lot area stuff. So we have it with multifamily right now. How much lot area has to be dedicated per dwelling unit? So, and that's, so I might just do a quick math example. So let's say you had a 10,000 square foot lot and divide by 2/4. So that would be about 4 residential units on that 10,000 square foot lot. But that's fully maxed out. You can't really fit any commercial on there right now because it's proportional, and for every one square foot of commercial, because this is a 0.55 FAR, you have to dedicate 1.81 or 1.81 square feet of lot area. So changing it to the new thing, you'd be able to get those 4 units, and then you'd also be able to have the commercial square footage on the property. Because right
That's what I'm
now,
talking about. Okay.
you wouldn't be able to have this because you maxed out the residential.
So, yeah, the residential wouldn't cannibalize the retail, so you'd be
Okay,
able to.
right. That's where I was headed with that. So you can get both.
Yes.
Right?
You don't have
can-
to adjust one side of the equation to allow.
You can get
for
your
the other.
density and your other intensity use and use that, and it doesn't cannibalize, perfect word.
Yeah.
I mean, I can give you a perfect example. I got one. My lot, it's allowed to have 2 units. Well, the hell, I mean, if I do a residential and commercial, I could have a store with an apartment above it, and that's all I can do. So in that case, I would be able to get the 2 residential units and some commercial in addition to those 2 units.
Yeah. And this would, and the benefit of this would help kind of smaller lots and property owners. So, because right now it really de-incentivizes kind of having these small mixed use projects that people like that have kind of that are not large developments. Because basically the way it's set up now is unless if you're get like combine a bunch of lots together, you're really limited
Yeah,
on
I mean, I can
mixed
attest to
use,
it.
so,
I mean, if you look at Gulf Boulevard,
Yeah.
between 140th to 148th, most of the lots are 80 by 80.
Yeah.
For contiguous ownership. So you've got really small lots, and
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense to redevelop the way we have now.
So
The older stuff that was there, like mine, worked the way it was, but it doesn't make any sense to put back 1 unit there. It just,
currently, right now, Ford Pinellas is doing a study for Indian Rocks Beach related to adopting this into their code. So city staff has been keeping a close eye on that study and process to see how it goes, because they have a similar situation where they have their own equivalent of C3 retail commercial, where right now, because of the proportional, it de-incentivizes mixed use. So we've been kind of keeping an eye on that process of them working to adopt that to see how it works out there. But
I think this is important if we don't want to lose all of our small commercial uses.
Yeah, I was going to echo that. If we don't allow small lots, am I talking too loud? If we don't allow small lots to be economically viable, we'll end up eventually looking like Clearwater, where all these lots will get combined and somebody will build something that we don't really want. Small lots need to be economically viable if we want a smaller look, which is kind of what the master plan is after.
Yep, and that is, for example, the ordinance, the setback ordinance is an example of kind of almost like a part 1 of that is adjusting the setbacks for the smaller lots to help them with that. But this would almost be like a part 2 of updating our comp plan and the C3 zoning to allow for that mixed use density and intensity bonus that allows you to calculate it differently. It's kind of, everyone, when you hear the word bonus, they freak out because they think of like a big increase, when in reality it's calculating it a slightly different way. Where it's still, as you know, we're coastal high hazard area, we're capped on residential density, we're not allowed to add any more. So this allows us to make use of what we currently have and make these properties more commercially viable for smaller developments. So,
Well, I think that fits in with the intent of the master plan too, to create more of a streetscape, more walkable city.
Right.
If we have small businesses that are out there, where otherwise what we end up doing is just what you said, everybody's got to go through an assemblage process and then build something big to make it viable. And then you lose that small town effect.
Right.
yeah.
So I think this is really.
Not
this is
Clearwater.
real-
Not
Right, yeah.
Clearwater Beach.
We can't be, we don't allow the height, but still.
Yeah,
it's-
and
I
or
get
the
what you mean.
density either.
It doesn't all have to be big national franchise things, and, you know, it would be nice. And that's why I proposed, when we talked about the master plan thing, another town center in the middle to create this kind of small town feel where the locals, which are, you know, our biggest neighborhoods are back there behind 140th, would be able to go there and not have to leave the island to go do trade on smaller items. Anyway, yeah, I
So,
think it's great.
I actually, so I guess with the land use thing, basically so any sort of land use change has to go through Forward Pinellas. And as you know, we saw with the activity center, the only reason why they approved that is we had to prove that the existing development patterns were not compatible with the retail and services future land use category. The thing is, they will not approve another activity center in our city. They would work with us on allowing commercial uses, but it would have to be in a way that doesn't increase residential density, and it would probably still have to match the current 0.5 intensity that we have for non-residential uses for residential medium.
So we wouldn't actively be able, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, to actively create a quote-unquote activity center, but by default, through correcting our LDRs, we're kind of doing that and helping to do exactly what you're talking
Oh,
about.
neighborhood center.
So, yeah, and so we wouldn't be able to, the activity center that we got through, I think will be the last one. So.
Well,
just-
I think it wouldn't increase the residential density. I think it would, quite the opposite. I think it would pull away from the residential density and add to the commercial use on some of those areas, because it's lacking. We're really lacking the commercial, easily accessible commercial.
So, and then, so the county really has two categories for commercial that could. They have an office one, which I've talked with him about it. That it's kind of weird. It doesn't have retail and service, like retail allowed, but then it allows all the kind of other small commercial uses. And then you have the general retail and services category that could potentially be an option, but in our comp plan, it would need to be more restrictive and match basically the density and intensity of the residential medium category that currently exists, where it would be capped at that 15 residential units per acre and probably a 0.5 FAR.
Yeah.
So I mean that's what I mean. Those changes would be which is what we'd want, because we want smaller neighborhood commercial. But I guess the question is, like with the residential medium future land use, you have everything from areas adjacent to commercial, like along Palm Street, to areas well into areas just surrounded by purely residential, including single family. So it's kind of that residential medium future land use in R2 zoning district really covers a lot of Madeira, and it varies vastly depending on what area of the city it is.
Okay.
That definitely could be a discussion item next time. Like this discussion is just related to the zoning category itself.
Right.
So it wouldn't expand it. It would be for the existing C3 and C4 zone properties currently.
Well, I think the important clarification was what you provided about the density stacking. I think that was a little bit, something I was trying to wrap my head around. So thank you for that. I hope everyone else grasps that and understands the intent, sees the benefit of it. Anybody got anything else on this particular subject they want to address? Oh, everybody's gone quiet. Okay, cool. I guess we're there.
Yep.
All right, so then the next item on our agenda is to announce the next meeting will be Monday, January the 5th at 6 p.m. Wish everyone a great holiday season and a happy upcoming new year. And hurricane season's over. We can all go celebrate with a frosty beverage about that. as of today. So thank you, everyone, for your time and attention. Appreciate everyone doing a great job.
Thank
Meeting
you.
adjourned.
Good talk.